talk about how to keep a secret. This isn't anything new. Everyone at some point has wanted to keep information secret and safe. In computer science, we call this cryptography. Typically, when we talk about sending something to someone, we talk in terms of point A to B, right? In this case, person A to person B. Let's say you want to communicate a message so that even if anyone can read it, person C, person D, etc., only the people who know the code will be able to actually understand what the message says. Then, even if you have eavesdroppers, you can still keep secrets. Let's talk about how we can keep this information secure. One extreme is to lock it up and try to get your message to the other person without the eavesdroppers even knowing about it. This option has to do with the delivery method. Another option is to change up the message before delivering it so the eavesdroppers can't understand it. The idea behind cryptography is to change the way we represent information, not how it's delivered. We say this information is encrypted. Our secret, the information, is protected because it can't be understood by the other people. In this lesson, we'll talk about ciphers. Some key terms to remember when we encrypt information and get a cipher, and we decrypt a cipher and get the protected information. In general, there are two methods for encrypting your information: ciphers and codes. A code is a substitution on the level of words and phrases, whereas a cipher is a substitution at the level of letters or symbols. Code takes big blocks of information and represents them with one symbol or pictures. In contrast, ciphers are more detailed and represent smaller blocks of information, like the letters in a word. Here's an example of a code based on pictures. A smiley face represents the word blackmail, a clockwise arrow represents the word king, and so forth. We are assigning pictures to words. So take a closer look at the symbols in this yellow box here. By cross-referencing this diagram up above, we can match words to symbols and figure out what this message means in the box. So the first symbol is kind of a circle with a cross in it, which we can look up here and say that means capture. And then the next one, we can see that that's the symbol for king. So we have capture king. And then this last one is for tomorrow. So when we put them all together, we get the whole message, capture king tomorrow. And there we have it, a deciphered code. Of course, if you didn't have the information to match the words to the symbols, you wouldn't be able to decipher the code from the pictures alone. Think about how many symbols it would take to encrypt blackmail with a cipher. Remember that ciphers work with smaller blocks of information, so for blackmail, we would represent each letter B, L, A, etc. with a different symbol. With a code, which represents larger chunks of information, you can represent the entire word blackmail with one picture, as we've done here. Like I said at the beginning, keeping a secret is not a new desire. There are several good examples of ciphers being used throughout history. These ciphers primarily began as a military tool, and militaries are still the heaviest users of cryptography today. A cipher that was prone to error in encrypting or decrypting on the battlefield was too easily intercepted or interpreted and didn't stick around for long. The Caesar cipher uses a single alphabet and is usually a simple transposition. We'll learn exactly what this means later. For example, the letter B will be represented by the letter F. This cipher was developed around 100 BCE, so it's about 2100 years old. The Caesar cipher is a kind of monoalphabetic cipher because it uses one, which mono means alphabet. The Skittily cipher was developed around 120 AD and, like the Caesar cipher, is monoalphabetic. However, both the sender and the receiver must be in possession of a cylinder of wood exactly the same diameter. The sender takes a long, narrow piece of fabric and coils it around the Skittily. He then writes the message in standard left-to-right format on the fabric. The fabric is then unwound from the Skittily and looks to be just like a strip of long cloth, which can be scrunched up and hidden in the smallest of places for transport. The recipient simply needs to wrap the fabric around their matching Skittily, and the message becomes clear. Finally, the Enigma machine was developed in 1914 and is a more complex kind of cipher. The Enigma machine is the polyalphabetic cipher machine, meaning that it uses more than one alphabet. The machine consists of a keyboard, light pads, and machinery. The Enigma was used by Nazi Germany to send encrypted messages to their soldiers. It is generally accepted that the Allies' ability to decrypt Enigma traffic shortened the outcome of World War II by several years. Ciphers are used today for encryption and blockchain. I've been throwing around the word encryption during this presentation, but that's because much of the old use of ciphers was based around secret messages. And that's exactly what encryption does. It allows someone to send secure messages so that only the intended person can understand it. For example, if you're familiar with online shopping, you have to put in your credit card information in order to pay. You don't want anyone else except the online shop to know your credit card information, so you make sure that information is encrypted. In general, cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin use encryption in order to exchange money and other goods. Imagine not needing a bank to keep your money in, but having strong enough encryption that you could use your computer. Blockchains are chains of information stored electronically. They are most commonly used to record monetary transactions because they keep a perfect time record. The order of pieces of data in a blockchain that tracks a set of transactions, say a family all withdrawing and depositing into the same bank account, is the same as the order in which those transactions occurred. For many applications of blockchain, no one individual or company has the authority to prove a transaction. Instead, a network of potentially thousands of computers all share access to a blockchain, like collaborators on a Google Doc. This makes it much more difficult to corrupt transaction history because all these users can compare a kind of record of the blockchain and quickly spot where the transaction history doesn't match up across computers, but should match up. Now we're going to focus more on two specific kinds of ciphers for words: transposition ciphers and substitution ciphers. Transposition ciphers have letters that are moved around within the message you want to encode, but not actually changed. Substitution ciphers have letters that are changed but not moved around relative to one another inside the message you're trying to encode. We can think of the difference between the two in this way: transposition shuffles and substitution shifts. For example, we can have a transposition cipher that puts the letters in reverse order, and a substitution cipher that makes each letter the next one down the alphabet. This might be confusing right now, but it should make more sense as we work through some examples. First cipher we're going to look at is called the rail fence cipher. This cipher is also called the zigzag cipher, and its name comes from the way in which it is encoded. Let's say we want to communicate the message, "Do not delay in escaping." So first, we take all the letters and we write them in a zigzag. So if you read this back out with a zigzag, you get "do not delay in escaping." So there you go. There's your original message. So when we want to write it down and encode it, we want to write across the top of the zigzag and then the bottom of the zigzag. So let's say we wanted to do this with a simpler message. Say, let's do kill. I don't want to write that much on my mouse pad. So it's going to be kill Bob. So then we write it in a zigzag. So we go down and then go back up. Then we go back down and then we go up again, down the zigzag, and then up the zigzag. So then the message that we would be giving to someone would look like this. We'd write out the top of the cipher. So we get K going across K, L, B, B, K, L, B, B, and then across the bottom of the circle, I, L, O. So we get I, L, O. And so if the person we're sending it to knows that we've encrypted the message in this way, they can recreate this drawing based on these two words and then work backwards to get the original message, which is kill Bob. As a fun exercise for you to try on your own, try encoding the message "we are discovered" in a rail fence cipher. Maybe do this with a friend, text them a picture, and have them work backwards and vice versa. The second transposition cipher we'll look at are anagrams. Anagrams are words or phrases you spell by rearranging the letters of another word or phrase. The only rule is that all of the letters from the original word or phrase must be used when they're reordered to say something entirely different. For example, the phrase "meet behind the castle" can be rearranged to read "these belched 'em in." It doesn't really have to make sense. It just has to be real words and all the letters need to be used. So you can kind of check this a little bit. You can see there's one M here, there's one M here, we have one B here, we have one B here, we have two H's here, and then we have two H's here. If you want, you can check all the letters and convince yourself. We can keep matching the letters we find in one phrase to the same letters in a new phrase, and that's what makes this an anagram. Everything's used up, and there's a perfect correspondence, one-to-one, between all the letters. So for some other fun examples, you can rearrange I hate homework to awoke, hi mother, or ciphers are fun to a fire punchers. Do you think you can make your own anagram cipher? Try making one with 3 words that's about food as a fun exercise. Feel free to pause the video and do that, and then come back as we move on to the next subject. And as a reminder, these are in fact transposition ciphers, where we talk about the letters simply being shuffled within the message. There are no new letters introduced here. There are no symbols that come in. You're simply shifting around the starting material you were given within that phrase. So now that we've covered a basic example of a transposition cipher, let's move on to a substitution cipher. First substitution cipher we'll look at today is called the Caesar cipher, which we briefly talked about when we introduced a bit of the history of ciphers. The Caesar cipher shifts each letter by the same number of places in the alphabet. For this particular cipher, let's shift every letter 3 places forward in the alphabet. For any given Caesar cipher, you could pick any number to shift the letters, and if you didn't know that number, you wouldn't be able to decrypt the cipher very easily at all. So for this particular cipher, where we're using 3 as the number we're shifting each letter, this is kind of a diagram of how that would work. So the letter A is going to be written as the letter D because A moves forward 1, 2, 3 places. The letter B becomes the letter E because B moves forward 1, 2, 3 places. C becomes F, and so on and so forth. So you can do a long phrase such as computer programming is fun, which gives this beautiful result. So let's kind of work through that and see how we actually got there. So I abbreviated the first word so that this takes up a little less of your time. The concept is the same for every letter. Feel confident that you can get it. So I have the alphabet written out here because otherwise I think I'd mess up going 3 letters ahead. So let's start with P. So we have P, we go Q, R, S. We have R, we go S, T, U. We have O, we go P, Q, R. Whoops, that was supposed to be U. We have G, we go H, I, J. Cannot type today. We have R, and it goes S, T, U. We have A, so we go B, C, D. We have M, so we go N, O, P. We have another M, so we get another P. We have I, so we go J, K, L. We have N, so we go O, P, Q. Then we have G, so we go H, I, J. And now we're on to our next word is, so I, J, K, L, S, T, U, V. Last word, F, G, H, I, U, V, W, X, N, O, P, Q. If you were writing a lot of things out with this, it would probably be helpful to like fully write the shifted alphabet below. So, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. Oh, this is large. But anyway, so then you could just directly look at the letter below and you wouldn't have to count 3 times every time you wanted to find a new letter. I definitely recommend pausing the video and trying this on your own. For example, you could encrypt the message hello world using the Caesar cipher. You can do 3 as we've done here, or for a challenge, you could shift each letter by 4 instead. So for example, A would be 1, 2, 3, 4, E instead of D as it is here. The final kind of substitution cipher that we're going to look at is called the Pigpen cipher. So this might look totally confusing at first, but basically we want to represent every letter of the alphabet with a symbol. So on these diagrams, you can see that every letter of the alphabet is in fact represented, but what are the symbols representing them? It's a little unclear. So what this means is that A is represented by a sort of right angle, B is represented by a 3-sided box that's missing the top, and so forth. And so we have kind of a second set here where J is represented by almost the same symbol as A, but instead it's got a dot in the quarter, and so forth for the rest of these. And then we similarly kind of double up on these angular shapes, like triangles missing one side, by having STUV as just the lines and having WXYZ as the angle with a dot in it as well. So these are the symbols we use to represent each letter. This might make even more sense as we try it with an example. So I'm going to show you how we can use our Pigpen cipher to write I love code. So I'm just going to draw here on Zoom Hopefully this shows up well. Okay, so we have the first letter, I, is just this upper left corner of the box. So we draw like this. And then the next word is love. So sorry, my Zoom thing's blocking the letters. We have L, which is this bottom left corner of the box with a dot in it. A beautiful little dot there. And then we have an O, which is a box missing the right side with a dot. And then we have V is this upper angle here. And then we have E is a full box. And then we have to do our final word is code. So C is this bottom left of the box again. And then O is the, we've done this before for love, this box missing the right side with a dot. And then D is the box missing the left side. Sorry if I accidentally have said the wrong left or right at some point. Hopefully the point still comes across. And then we have E again, which is this nice full box here. And there we go. We've encrypted the message, I love code, with our pigpen cipher. And only if someone knew the exact pigpen pattern we were using could we decrypt it. Because this diagram here could be written with any, matching of letters to symbols. So for example, someone could totally switch these and have this be A, B, C with the dots, and then have J, K, L be with the no dots, any kind of an arrangement you wanted. So it's really crucial to have this original drawing here to be able to figure out what this actually says. This is definitely the trickiest cipher we've covered today, so don't worry if you don't understand it all right now. If you want more practice, try encoding Hello World with a pigpen cipher. This was just an introduction to cryptography and ciphers, and I hope you've learned some cool new ways you can keep secret messages. Computers are able to make extremely complicated ciphers, so today many places hire computer scientists to help encrypt their information. There are lots of great resources and videos on the internet about cryptography if you're interested in learning more.